The Jewish people eagerly awaited the arrival of the Messiah, anticipating the political liberation and the restoration of their nation. Jesus' teachings about the kingdom of God drew crowds so much so that he had to speak from a boat. In Matthew 13, we have 8 parables. 6 begin with the phrase, the kingdom of heaven is like. Jesus taught in parables because, one, it allowed him to point his message to a particular group of listeners. Two, because our minds need to relate to things that we know before we can understand new things, new concepts. And three, our brain is made to relate to stories. It causes us to think more deeply and to be more curious. Just think about it. Even when we don't remember the Bible verses, we still remember the essence of the parables. In the second parable in this chapter, Jesus talks about wheat and weeds. Jesus compares the kingdom of heaven to a man who sows good wheat seeds in his field. He's talking to farmers here. However, while everyone is sleeping, an enemy comes and sows weeds among the wheat. When the plants begin to grow, the wheat and the weeds intertwine. It's impossible to tell the difference between the tares and the wheat until the very end when harvest time comes. When the workers notice the weeds, they ask the landowner if they should pull them out. The landowner advises them to let both the weeds and the wheat grow together until the harvest, else you'll risk rooting up the good crops with the bad. At harvest, the reapers can safely separate them. The weeds will be gathered and burned, while the wheat will be gathered and put into the barn. Later in the chapter, Jesus explains the meaning of this parable to his disciples. He identifies himself as the sower of the good seed, the field as the world, the good seed as the children of the kingdom, and the weeds as the sons of the evil one. The enemy who sowed the seed is the devil, and the harvest represents the end of the age when the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. For modern Christians, as we face our daily challenges, this parable teaches us a number of things. One, that we are going to coexist with good and evil. The parable reminds us that in this world there will be coexistence of good and evil. Just as the wheat and the weeds grow together, we will encounter both righteous and wicked. However, we are called to stand firm in our faith, living as children of the kingdom amidst the challenges and the temptations of the world. The lesson also teaches us that patience and trust in God is important. The landowner instructs the workers to wait until the harvest before separating the wheat and the weeds, teaching us that there is a value in patience and in waiting and in trusting in God for his perfect time. In our daily challenges, we may be tempted to act hastily or to judge others prematurely. Instead, we should trust that God will ultimately bring justice and separation. This lesson also teaches us about God's judgment and assures us that God will do the right thing for us. The parable offers assurance that God will judge the righteous and the wicked at the end of ages. As followers of Christ, we sometimes want to speed up God's judgment on others. We kind of want some wrath now. We can take comfort in knowing that God sees and knows all things, and we should entrust ourselves to his judgment, knowing that he will ultimately make all things right, protecting his people. Next, This lesson teaches us that only God knows the hearts of men. So only He can separate the wheat from the weeds, the saved from the unsaved. True faith is a fact that is not visible to man. There is no way for humans to know the true heart of others, and we must be mindful that as we deal with those other people, that we are sometimes tempted to cast judgments because they sin in ways different from the sins that we ourselves commit. We are called upon to love all of God's people and to see God in everyone we meet. This parable emphasizes the importance of living as a child of God, representing the good seed that produces a fruitful harvest. As modern Christians, we are called to embody the values of God's kingdom, spreading His love, justice, and compassion in a world that grows darker each day. This lesson guides us, it encourages us that even in a world where we must associate with those who do not believe, who do evil, that we must stand firm and show God's love in all that we do. That's a lesson for this week. Have a great week. Bye.